This is the motherboard to a Dell Inspiron 546. This is a personal computer that came out in the year 2009. It uses a AMD AM3 socket with an AMD 780 chipset. And in this case, we're using an Athlon 2 CPU. This is an older computer, but it's still useful for many things. And I keep around a number of these older computers for various reasons. Now, in this case, I put it into a different case, but it's the motherboard we're concerned about. Now, this particular computer I hadn't used in about 2 years. Anyway, I decided to turn it on recently, and it didn't work. The amber power light comes on. If you hit the power button, the fan would spin up, and that was it. Otherwise, it simply didn't work. You'd get no beep, you'd get no post, you'd got just nothing. The computer was dead for all practical purposes. Just go ahead and turn it off there. I went through the usual troubleshooting. I tried replacing the RAM memory. I tried replacing the power supply. I tried disconnecting all of the peripherals, and nothing worked. I was about ready to give up on it when I remembered something that happened in the past. I had another Inspiron computer, the model 530, and it had a very strange problem. Just like this one, it wouldn't start, it wouldn't run, it wouldn't post. And what I discovered was that the CMOS battery was low. There's a CMOS battery right there. In a normal computer, if the CMOS battery goes down, what happens is the CMOS memory gets lost, and when you boot up the computer, you get an error message which says something like time and date not set. And then it gives you some key combination to enter the CMOS setup. It's usually like the delete key or the F2 key or the F10 key, something like that. In that Dell 530 case, it didn't. Now, I replaced the CMOS battery in that computer, and it still wouldn't work. I tried the CMOS reset jumper, and it also didn't work. I experimented with it for a while, and what I realized was that when the memory battery goes down below a certain voltage, it seems to corrupt the data in the CMOS memory, and that prevents it from booting. And you have to get all that bad data out of there. And the jumper switch just doesn't seem to do it. And I found that by removing the CMOS battery and putting the jumper on the reset and just leaving it there for a while, that eventually cleared the problem and that fixed the computer. And I thought, I wonder if that will work with the model 546. So I went ahead and tried that. Anyway, here's our CMOS battery. Now, in the case of this computer, I found that that battery was 1.5 volts, which is way too low. Now, just a word about testing the CMOS battery. I'm going to take this voltmeter and I'll show you how you can measure this in circuit without pulling the battery. Now, if you take the positive terminal and you just touch it to the top of the battery, that's positive, and then ground it on anything, like let's say this screw right here, 3.2 volts. Now, that's a good battery. That's about what you should see. So you can test it without pulling it out. Now, here's what we did to fix this. First, we pull the power cord out. You see our amber light has gone out on the motherboard. Okay, the next thing we do is remove our CMOS battery. Now the CMOS battery is held in by a couple of plastic tabs there all around it. Now you have to push the battery this way towards the back of the computer. You take a tiny flathead screwdriver like this and you place it in. There's a little space right in here where you can get it, right in there. And then you need to press it back towards the back of the computer, and then you need to clear these two plastic tabs on this side, and you can then lift it out like so. And it is a CR2032 size battery. That's the most commonly used CMOS battery in personal computers. One thing to consider when you pull the battery out, have a look at the battery holder. These two little prongs here provide contact to the negative side. And these may lay down after a while. That is, they sort of lose their tension and provide poor contact. You might you just kind of get your little screwdriver there and sort of bend them up a little bit, put a little more spring tension back in them so that they'll press more tightly against the negative terminal of the battery. Here is our jumper right here, that little blue jumper there. It's sitting on pins 2 and 3, which is the normal position. You want to pull that out and then put it on pins 1 and 2, like so. Okay, and that's going to help drain that CMOS memory. Now you just let it sit for about 15 or 20 minutes. You want every last bit of voltage to drain out of that motherboard. And hopefully that will erase the corrupted data and you'll be able to reboot your computer. Okay, after 20 minutes, we reverse the process. We take that jumper off pins 1 and 2 and put it back on pins 2 and 3. We take our good CMOS battery and we pop it in here like so. Hook it under these 2 tabs first on this side, and then basically just push it in. We reconnect the power cord. Our amber light comes back on, and now we can hit the power button. Now, if you're lucky, your computer will come up to post. If everything worked as we hope it did, this is what you should be seeing. Now, before, nothing at all came up on the screen. The screen just remained blank. But now this is what we get. So this is a good sign. This means the computer is booting and it is coming to the post. It's telling us we have a CMOS checksum error, which basically means the time and date are not set. And it gives you the option to hit F2 and to run the setup. And that's what you should see. And of course, at this point, the most important thing is to set the time and date. You go down to standard CMOS and you hit enter, and then you just got to go ahead and set up the date and time. You use the plus and minus keys to increase or decrease the value, and you can use the tab key to move across. Okay, with the time and date set, we'll hit the escape key. Now, there are a number of other things that you can set here, but that's the most important thing. And when you're done setting up your configuration, you just hit the F10 key and save your configuration. And with any luck, your computer will boot. Okay, great. The computer is booting up into Windows 10, just as we hoped. If this does not fix the computer the first time, don't be afraid to try it a second or a third time. This is not an exact science. I've seen it where it partially works and then not completely works, and then you try it a second time or a third time and you finally get it to where it works. So be persistent. Don't give up after just one try. Give it a couple tries if you have to.